The Michael Berry Show.
I saw a post by Jeremy Kitchen, and he's with the Texas Policy. He's with TexasPolicyResearch.com, and it was about this film subsidy business. And I've asked some of you to weigh in on this. It's not an easy issue. It's an interesting issue. It's the kind of conversations we ought to be having because it's your money. And it is to give a lot of money to films, to shoot films in the state of Texas and hire people here, and some of them living here and all that. But it's a whole lot of money. And we keep getting bigger and bigger budgets. And I think it should be the role of the public to have a say over whether you want this or not. I do believe it's good for your state to have films in your state. I do believe that. It's just a question of at what cost. And I think it's a conversation we should have, and we're going to have it now. But first, Jeremy Kitchen, welcome to the program. I'm a little disturbed why it's spelled Jeramy.
Believe me, I remind my mother every time I see her that is a problem, and it creates a problem for sure. But I appreciate you having me on.
Is Kitchen a Jewish name?
It is not, no, sir. Most of my kin's from Missouri.
You can have Jews in Missouri.
Well,
what kind of comment was that? I didn't say you were from Israel. Are you Jewish? No, I'm from Missouri. What? How does that work?
No, sir. I'm a Christian.
I think St. Louis has a huge Jewish community. What's the D for in Jeremy D. Kitchen?
Douglas is my middle name.
Douglas, with one S?
Yes, sir. Named after my grandfather.
General Douglas MacArthur?
No, sir.
All right, so we're going to get to it. This is a conversation I asked listeners on the evening show a couple days ago to send in your thoughts. I'd be curious what y'all have to say. What's interesting is I will get criticism from Republicans. Why can't you be for anything? I didn't say I was for or against anything. I'm saying these are the kind of conversations we should have. And Jeremy Kitchen has run the numbers on the finances, and we're going to discuss it coming up. By the way, it's Jeremy, not Jeremy. Jeramy.
The Michael Berry Show.
Jeremy, Jeramy, Ramon. Jeremy Kitchen, not Jeremy, it's Jeremy, is our guest. So, Jeremy, let's talk about this Senate Bill 22, House Bill 4568, to bring movies to the state of Texas. Take a couple minutes and talk about what that is factually, and then share some opinions on it.
Yes, sir. Well, first off, thanks for having me. Senate Bill 22 is a well-intentioned, but we would argue deeply flawed piece of legislation. At its core, it's a $1.5 billion taxpayer-funded subsidy program for politically approved film and multimedia projects. It expands government in both size and scope, and it gives unelected officials sweeping authority to decide what kind of stories deserve support. So we don't think it's good fiscal policy. We think it's dangerous precedent for free expression, and it's just not the proper role of government. Ultimately, just mechanically, the way this works, just so people are aware, Texas does currently have a film incentive program that's called the Texas Moving Image Industry Incentive Program. This would create a kind of a separate fund, if you will. It would kind of supercharge it, but this would be a separate fund outside of the state treasury where every 2 years, biennially, $500 million from general revenue, which is taxpayer money, $500 million would be transferred to support this fund. And the important takeaway here, on top of a lot of things, is that that's $500 million that automatically goes to this separate fund to do this, that lawmakers have no control over, other than when they choose to either sunset or continue the program itself, which is different from the existing film incentive program that they have to appropriate money for every time they budget.
Jeremy,
I can go on, but that's kind of the start.
Jeremy, how much are they giving the program now?
Currently, it's in the millions. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it's in the millions. It's not upward. It's not $500 million every 2 years, though, and it changes every biennium.
Okay, but because I have no concept of it. When I was on Houston City Council, we had a Houston Film Commission, and I'm going to pull this number out of my head, but it was let's say it was 500,000. We had a guy named Rick Ferguson who was executive director. And he basically would just get on the phone and do whatever he could, but there wasn't really much of a budget. Does the state deal directly with the filmmaker, or are they giving some of that to the cities? How is that? Do you know how that money is set to be dispensed?
Sure. Sure. Well, so are you talking about currently or in the proposed legislation?
Both.
Okay, so currently, it's administered as a part of the Texas Film Commission. So that sits under the executive. It's part of the governor's office, the current program, Texas Moving Image Industry Incentive Program, or TMIP is the acronym. And that's administered from the Texas Film Commission under the governor's office. And they have like specific folks that allocate depending on what's a qualified project or not. A project can earn anywhere from 5 to almost 23% back, depending on how much they spend. There's certain thresholds, right? How much they spend in the state and where they spend it.
Hold on. So the way it's presently set up, you spend the money and you might get a rebate based on behaviors we're trying to encourage and incentivize.
Correct. Yes,
okay.
sir. Yeah. Both.
Helpful.
They're trying to incentivize not only that it's Texans doing this, but that they're spending in Texas, right? As kind of this economic incentive to stir economic activity. In the proposed legislation, Senate Bill 22, this would create a kind of a separate office, if you will, in the governor's office. I think it's 8 full-time employees that would be hired. So we're expanding bureaucracy. 8 full-time employees that would be hired, and they will be they're unelected, so they'd be the sole arbiters of what qualifies under the content restrictions that exist in this program. It's important, right? So like the current program doesn't have a lot of content restrictions. It just has to it has to be somewhat decent, if you will, but the proposed program would have content restrictions that are, does it show Texas in a good light? They have to decide kind of if that, what qualifies for that. And so as you can imagine, what you have is the only things that would qualify are people trying to make films or to express themselves in a way that is, amenable to these unelected folks to get money, right? It's just kind of a perverse incentive.
And does it make clear who those electors or Sadducees or Pharisees or whatever these people would be? Does it make clear? I guess those are gubernatorial appointees?
Yes, sir. They'd be people just in the governor's office, people that they hire there.
All right, hold on just a moment. Jeremy Kitchen, TexasPolicyResearch.com, coming up.
You are listening to The Michael Berry Show.
Anyway, Jeremy Kitchen is our guest. We're talking about, among other things, Senate Bill 22, House Bill 4568, which means nothing to our listeners, $500 million every 2 years to supposedly fund bringing films here. In your judgment, this is a bad call? You're against it?
Yes, sir. Our organization made a recommendation that lawmakers vote against the bill. I mean, we already have an existing program, and the merits of that can be discussed too. But this is just kind of expands that program, puts it on steroids, with no guarantee that we're actually going to get our investment back. On top of the fact that the governor's office, the people that make the calls, right, for balls and strikes on this, they can rescind funding at any time in the production process. So taxpayers could lose out on money if, let's say, a film or a video game or whatever it is that's being produced, let's say they get halfway through and there's some content that they don't like, they could pull the funding, and that means taxpayers are on the hook and or out of that money. I mean, that's frustrating.
All right, I'm going to ask you for quick answers here because I got a bunch of questions for you, but you note that overall the state budget is the largest in Texas's history. This isn't conservative values. This isn't what taxpayers voted for. This is a tax and spend drunken sailor budget by Republicans in Austin, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, $337.4 billion is our overall state budget that both chambers have now approved of the total. They're just kind of debating the differences.
I hear from people every day about their tax bill and tax bills increasing, and they are so angry about it, and there's nothing they can do. You never really own your home, as Kevin Williamson at National Review has said. You never really own your home in Texas. You just rent it from the government. You can pay off the mortgage, but you never own it because you always have to keep paying the government in order to retain possession of your home, which means it's not complete and pure ownership. You are a tenant of the government. You say that House Bill 3, the Texas two-step, $8 billion for public school finance and $1 billion for the school choice program, which is why I have argued that from a policy perspective, the school choice, as they're calling it, program is an inch forward. It's not a setback, but it's an inch forward. But as you note in one of your headlines, Texas House bill passes school choice bill, but it misses the mark. They decided that rather than upset the public school lobby, which includes a lot of rural Republicans, all right, we'll give y'all all the money you want. And instead of taking some of it to put it to people who are leaving the public schools, we'll just give them a bunch of money too. So everybody gets money. It's the Oprah Winfrey Show.
Yes, sir. I mean, at the end of the day, we're giving $1 billion, which is a huge investment of taxpayer money, right? I think you hit the nail on the head. We're giving $1 billion to a school choice program. That's great. We support school choice, but the point of school choice is to increase competition. And then when you're trying to quote unquote increase competition, but you give $8 billion more dollars on top of the funding you're giving just in the base budget to the people you're trying to compete against, it seems like again, it's just not a bargain. I think that it's being sold as. And so, yeah, that's another frustrating element of what's happening in Austin right now.
One of your headlines, I think, is it gets into procedural issues, which a lot of folks don't see. A lot of folks say, I want to vote for Republicans. I want good government. If I vote for good government, I'll get good government. And they don't understand the way these games are played. And you can't blame people because this is the real in-the-weeds kind of stuff. But your headline, April 16th, Texas House Calendars Committee can kill bills by inaction as key deadline nears. I think of the old pocket veto that's been used over the years by certain governors. The idea that you don't actually vote down something taxpayers want, the calendars committee puts it up for vote. It doesn't make it out of calendars, which ends up being a very, very powerful gatekeeper. So you end up killing bills by never actually voting on them, and then you come back and go, you got to send me one more time. We couldn't get to it. We was so busy.
That's right. I mean, today is day 101 of the 140-day session, right? And the first deadline that comes up in the House that really matters is, I think, day 122. It's May 15th. And that means that the House can't take up any House bills or House joint resolutions anymore. They can only take up Senate bills beyond that, right? So if you're doing the math, today's day 101. If bills that you're watching in the House that are specifically House bills or House joint resolutions haven't made it out of committee, haven't gotten a hearing in committee, technically right now, let's say they get to the House Calendars Committee to be quote unquote set on a calendar. The Calendars Committee by rule can sit on a bill for 30 days without taking any action on it. And we're under that 30-day threshold. So effectively any bill that gets sent to calendars right now, they don't have to vote on, they can just sit on it and effectively kill it.
It's frustrating because the first 2 months they would recess on Thursday, take a long weekend, not hear any bills. And we know that the Democrats control the House because the Democrats picked the House. It picked the Speaker. That was Dustin Burrows. All they needed was a few Republicans to get there. So taxpayers with Trump values, taxpayers who want small government, taxpayers who wanted cuts, taxpayers who are tired of property tax increases and want more control over where their kids go to school. All of these things people worked hard to elect candidates for, and they send these folks up there who made promises and commitments to them with no intention of following through. And the game, the way it's played, is, gosh, dog, that's a great idea. Thank you guys for your support. We didn't get it done, but boy, we worked hard. We rolled up our sleeves, and it's a lot of work. It's just good, hard, solid, wholesome work. We're going to go back next session, which means vote for me again. It's debilitating, and it's what turns people off of politics and why they don't get involved ever again, because they win elections and lose the policy issues, and that makes them crazy.
Well, we share your frustrations. I mean, obviously you talked about the House not taking action. In Texas, we have a 140-day session once every 2 years. And I would argue that, really the only thing they're constitutionally bound to do is pass a balanced budget. So, if they get here, they can do that. Great. Everything else is kind of extra. But yeah, people are frustrated, rightfully so. But this session, previous sessions they just take so long to get to even their first bill. I mean, they didn't do any bills in the first 60 days of the Texas House. I think it was day 72 of the 140-day session was the first time that a calendar had hit the floor. Whereas, compare that to the Senate. The Senate took up the school choice bill. That was their first bill. It was Senate Bill 2. They took that up in early February, right? Just a night and day difference.
Well, You guys are doing great work. Jeremy Kitchen, TexasPolicyResearch.com. I encourage you to follow them. They're doing a great job covering the state legislature right now.